website Nakamoto.io, which is a, like you can see the major trans Nakamoto coefficient. So it sounds very neat, right? However, it's helpful, but also it has major flaws. For example, according to Nakamoto.io, which is the website I just mentioned, it can be difficult to identify if any two nodes are actually secretly, being run by one party. And also, like, when we say independent actors, what exactly does it mean? Does it mean, like, for example, are family members independent actors? Are employees of the same company, in the same company, independent actors? Maybe the answer is yes, but it is definitely much less independent than two actors or two entities who never met in real life, right? So here's another extreme example of like Nakamoto coefficient, which might be obvious. This is the if we talk about, for example, Bitcoin Nakamoto coefficient. This is the hash rate distribution of today. I just took it yesterday from somewhere. So you can see that Bitcoin's Nakamoto coefficient is 3. Why? Because as long as you capture foundry N pool and F2 pool, then you are already controlling majority of the computing powers, right? You can already very easily perform 51 attacks. So I don't subscribe to this, by the way. But this does show you that, that metrics can be useless in some cases. And, it fails to give you a reliable picture of the decentralization. So one question we ask is, why not attack? Why not attack the network? So from the naive view, let's say if you're validators, your naive view is that, you don't have a naive view, you have a very mature view, but a very naive view is that if you follow the protocol, you will get a steady income over time by securing network and by contributing, doing transaction validations and so on and so forth. Instead, if you choose to attack the protocol, then as you see it, you most likely will get a lot more instantly. This is the naive view. In reality, the realistic view is that because as a validator you have skin in the game, so if you attack the protocol first, you will lose your reputation, you will lose your trust. And second, if you succeeded in attacking the network, then the value of the network will drop significantly, meaning that your price of attacking network will be less valuable. So in practice, you as a validator attacking the network is not appealing, it's not profitable. So don't do that. Okay, so how about the outsiders? What if you have nothing at stake? If you're outsiders, you don't get anything by following the protocol. And you do have something by attacking, you do get something by attacking networks, right? This sounds like a good deal you probably should try. And what can you do? So most of discussions about decentralization have centered around, economic models or technical attacks. There is a even simpler way to attack the network, which is directly going behind validators. So, okay, then it comes to our topic today, kidnapping. So, kidnapping, metaphorically, it means that, gaining control of validator stakes without paying economic costs upfront. So, it can happen in many ways. For example, legal jurisdictions. A government can legally or illegally seize the validators, the entities, the companies, or whatever under its jurisdictions, right? So we all know this. This happened in the past. It happened in China. It happened in Iran. It happened in some other countries. And the second, infrastructure providers, right? So infrastructure providers can choose to abruptly terminate hosting of crypto-related activities, and then, just kicking out validators out of the network. And this also happened in the past. So you probably know that in 2022, there is a data center provider called Hasner, which is like a very popular data center providers in Germany. They are known as providing cheap options and stuff like that. They suddenly changed in their term of service saying that, we banned or cryptocurrency activities. You're not allowed to do mining. You are not allowed to do running a validator, running a full node. You are not even allowed to store blockchain data. and they don't explain why. They just kick you off suddenly. So this graph shows that when that happened, there were close to 17% of the Ethereum validators are actually running on this data provider. So this is horrible. If I remember correctly, that also impact quite a few other networks, including Salon and a few others. So this is not hypothetical. This is real. And this is a fun one. So stake ownership. What that means is large buyers can rapidly buy out critical validators, and then get massive control. So one example, which is kind of fun here. For example, if you look at Lido's FDV, it's 1 billion. And then Lido's control 7% of Ethereum stake, which means you can spend the 1 billion to buy out Lido, and then you can suddenly control 31 billion. It's a great deal, actually, especially if you think of it in another way. If you actually want to control 7% of Ethereum, if you want to buy 7% of Ethereum, you're going to pay much more than 31 billion because you're driving out price. So this is actually not a bad deal if anyone wants to do it.
But it doesn't work like that. How you can buy 1 billion of Lido and control the Ethereum stake, because you cannot buy it. Or what do you mean by buy it?
By buying it means that I suddenly become the actual control entity or natural person of Lido. So I have authority.
That cannot happen. That cannot happen because Lido is operated by, let's say, 38 different entities. How can you control it?
Exactly. That's the piece that we should not talk about here, because similar to the Bitcoin thing here, you can also say, oh yes, even though you can say, oh, here you say there are three entities controlling most of the hash rates. In reality, the argument is that, oh, I can, if I am contributing to this hash pool, this mining pool, I can just shut it down and then switch to other pools that actually do something else. You can say the same thing, but the counter argument is that you are still connected to the protocol. This is a very controversial one. We have been talking about decentralization debate between which one is more decentralized, Bitcoin, Ethereum. This is primarily the center of the problems. People who think this Bitcoin is more decentralized, they will say, "Oh, you're Lido. Look at
it's the most centralized coin." In my opinion, Bitcoin is the most centralized cryptocurrency.
Yes, some people. I believe many people will agree with you, and many people will agree with.
What about Ripple? That's a meme, right?
There are many memes when we talk about centralization. Actually. Okay, so we're talking about something here. Yes. Okay, so and last but not least, social gathering, right? So everyone here knows about Red attack. It means that yes, you have before quantum computing. Before quantum computing, you can use a $5 wretch to actually ask someone to give up their private keys, so you can take all their assets. Unfortunately, the same version, the similar version, a variant of that exists for validators as well. Because, sometimes validators just gather together physically to have technical discussions, to have all kinds of parties, events. That creates vulnerability, physical vulnerabilities. Validators like party and attackers like convenience. So I think, the point of this is that, even though, traditionally most of the decentralization discussions center around economics, attacks or technical attacks, all the methods we just talked about, they also, they can completely bypass those safeguards and then, directly impact the entities or the person behind those nodes, behind those physical nodes. So, which emphasize the importance of decentralization, and not just geographically, but also economically, legally, and operationally. So then the last question is, how do we identify the cause of kidnapping? So there are a bunch of more objective metrics we can look at here compared to Nakamoto coefficient. So for example, ASM's autonomous system numbers, we can use that to identify the server networks, right? This one is very straightforward. And then SSL certificates, we look at the countries and then we tier them by mutual legal assistance treaties, because as you might know, like countries who has this MLAT things, they're more likely to cooperate with each other and then, take actions to enforce, validators or entities to, put them out of business or, whatever. And then, the third thing is activity correlation. So what that means is, for example, are you offline? Are you always offline at the same time? Do you always like upgrade your software versions at the same time? Or do you, like, when it comes to voting, governance voting, do you always vote the same options, right? That's another way. And then, finally, there's another thing, we can do here to make sure, to try to identify the validators behind nodes, which is identity attestation. So you as a validator, can you attest to your identity? Can you prove to us who you are? Now, you probably, we are operating a Web3 decentralized world. You probably don't want to reveal your real identity, right? Even though you are somewhat professional, validator. So that is, something Realo can give you for free. So, with Realo, Realo give you anyone ability to connect to any existing APIs out there, Web 2 or Web 3, any APIs with encrypted credentials and with encrypted results. So with that, you can very easily attest to your, identity. For example, let's say this network, let's say we want to recruit a new validator who is a Ukraine citizen or something like that. Then you can leverage this to prove that you are a Ukraine citizen, but without actually revealing to the world who you actually are. So something like that. I think this is the last page of this. So, so we are just, out of stealth, building the first real world blockchain out there. So please follow us at Realo HQ on X.
How do you do the identity attestation?
So the way we do identity attestation is that, the more general mechanism is that we provide a way, for a developer to specify in their on-chain program, saying that I want to connect to this URL. And this is a credential which is encrypted, so nobody can see it, or nobody can see it. And you can provide the parameters, you can provide the filtering formats to apply to the results from the API. And then you can get the data, and you can immediately use the data in your smart contract. So it feels very much like writing a async code. Does it make sense? So imagine,
Sorry, go ahead.
Imagine you're connecting to your DMV. Let's say there's a DMV API. Then you can connect to the DMV API, and this API will tell you, oh, this person is indeed larger than 21 years old. So you're allowed to go to a bar to have fun. This is done through one line code in your smart contract. There's no infrastructure cost for you. There's no, you don't need to pay Oracle or whatever money. One line code.
Do you use zk-TLS?
We don't use zk-TLS. We use TEs.
Okay.
We use the verifiability and confidentiality provide TEs.
Okay. But how can you make sure that the API we are calling is not being you?
Yeah.
TE solves this, yeah, but how do you make sure that the person you are calling from the other side is the correct person? If you don't use zk-TLS.
It's HTTPS. So as long as you have to trust the other side. For example, you have to trust DMV.
Would you get DNS hijacked?
Well, that's very hard to solve though. It can happen in Web 2 things. So that's something kind of out of scope of the problem we're solving here.